right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Latin Kidlit Book Festival. My name is Carlos Matias. I will be your moderator for today. We're here with three amazing authors to talk about their hilarious books. I'm so excited. But before we start, if you can please read our anti-harassment policy. It's in the chat box. Also, do not forget to subscribe to the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival's YouTube channel. And if you are a school, classroom, librarian, teacher, educator joining us, our school visit fund is back. You can enter to win a free visit from a Latinx author or illustrator for your classroom or library. You can find the link to the entry form in the chat. All right, now we're about to kick off a very fun and funny story with our authors. I'm excited for everyone to hear these stories, which I got to read before this. So I'm excited for and selfishly, I can't wait to pick their brains about the books. So I'm super excited for this. Before we dive into the readings, let's start with quick introductions. If each of you can just briefly introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your book, we can go down from, let's start with Natalie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathalie Alonso. I am a children's author based in Queens in New York City, and I am the author of Old Clothes for Dinner, my debut picture book that I'll be sharing with you today. And I am also a reporter covering baseball, so I have other books that are nonfiction stories about some of the players I find most inspiring.
Cool. And Joaquin?
Well, thank you for inviting me so I can practice my rough English. My name is Joaquin Camp. I'm from Argentina, Buenos Aires, but right now I'm living in Madrid, and we are going to present my book called Aldo Ghost Dog. It's a book that has been translated into a lot of countries. It has been published in Korea. It has been published in Italy, in Spain, in Argentina also, and it's one of my favorite books. I really like the character. You know, I have a very good relationship with Aldo. Uh, hope you have the same thing too.
Cool. And Justin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Colón, and I'm a children's author and professional actor for TV and film who lives in Long Island, New York. My debut picture book, The Quackin', illustrated by Pablo Pino, published July 16th through Simon & Schuster. And my next picture book, Impossible Possums, illustrated by James Ray Sanchez, publishes October 22nd through Disney Hyperion.
Cool. So yeah, thank you all for introduction. Well, actually, got to introduce myself. Carlos Matias. My book, Emergency Quarters, came out May of this year. I'm born and raised in Queens, where the book takes place, and it's a true story inspired by my childhood. And yes, so thank you all for introducing yourselves. And now on to the fun part, our story time. Okay, so we began with Natalie in the introduction. So Justin, if you want to kick off the story time.
Okay, perfect. So I'm reading my excerpt, correct? Awesome. Okay, so I will be reading Impossible Possums, written by me, Justin Colón, and illustrated by James Ray Sanchez. And this is our wonderful cover, and here are our end papers coming up after. And that is Carl's evil lair, where he does all his plotting and planning to take over the world with his devices. We'll move on to the next page. This is the dedication page from my brothers, Julian and Jordan, and my cousin, James, Bruzins. That's what we like to call ourselves. And all the boys in our family, well, most of them, yes, our names start with a J. And the illustrator, James, his dedication reads, "For my mama, thanks for always being a crazy loon with me." And I love that he dedicated the book to his mother because My book, The Quackin', is my first one, and that's dedicated to my mother. So here we go. Our title page. We'll move forward. Carl is bad, bad to the bone. He enjoys popping kids' balloons, pop, pop, licking their ice cream, replacing their ice cream so he can lick it again. And if you look at the ice cream, you'll see he has some what looks like mint chocolate chip, and there's a bunch of ice cream already in his little fanny pack over there. We'll move to the next spread. And in his free time, plotting to take over the world with his villainous devices. See? Bad to the bone. The thing is, being a bad possum can get a little lonely. And here's Carl, and he's walking through his evil lair in the sewer, and he goes from laughing to being sad, and he's hee, sniff, sniff. Poor Carl, he's all sad. Carl is used to doing things alone, but that doesn't mean he wants to. That's it. He'll make his own friends, and lots of them. Here he is ordering his new machine. It says, confirm address, 122 1/8 Evil Lair Lane. Confirm. Package en route. And then we have the delivery truck, and you see it bouncing. I can't see it because I'm getting old, but there's little text that reads like bing, bang, tink, whoosh. And then Carl says, wow, you can order anything through the mail. Instructions? Ugh, yuck. Carl doesn't have time for instructions. So he's building it himself. Close enough. It's alive! With his new possum populator, Carl will create the perfect friend. Another Carl. An entire army of Carls. The possum populator sputters to life, but it doesn't understand. Make me a possum empire. Bleep, blip. Bloop. Penguin, jazz, choir. Possums, not penguins, you overgrown toaster. Carl repeats his command. Too late. They're already performing at the hottest spots in town. And there they are. They're performing jazz at a little jazz club. Everyone's loving them. Partying at the local beaches. And crashing in inconvenient places. I love this one. You have the penguin in the freezer, and he set up his whole clothes in there like a little squatter. Carl pleads for help. I'm begging you, fill this room with possum troops. Bleep, blip, bloop, pigeon poops. Possums, not pigeons, you metal monstrosity. Definitely too late. And then we have the pigeons, and they're pooping on everyone's cars. Splat, splat, splat. And if you look carefully, you'll see the pigeons are carrying Carl off into the sky. This pandemonium must stop. Bleep, blip, bloop. Pandas non-stop. Mama! Carl does not want pandas. He does not want to be their mama. And he does not want them playing with his possum populator. But it is way, way too late. Whatever you do, don't press the click. Uh-oh. Bleep, blip, bloop, bleep, blip, bloop, bleep, blip, bloop, bleep, blip, bloop, bleep, blip, bloop. And that's where we end it. Now the possum populator is going into overdrive, and there is just about to be complete chaos. Will Carl ever find his friend?
They'll have to read to find out. I know what happens. But
Hey everyone, and it's funny, I had to lower my voice because I had people looking at me through the glass like, what is this guy doing?
that's hilarious. Thank you, Justin, for sharing
My pleasure.
with us. I can't wait. Yeah. Can't wait to get into the Q&As. It was such a unique story, and like the writing and like the format. So I can't wait to hear more about it.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, and then Joaquin, if you want to read your excerpt.
Of course. Okay. Aldo Ghost Dog. It's the first time that I'm reading this in English, yeah? With my Argentinian accent. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Aldo, and as you can see, I'm a ghost dog. Boo. How did I turn into a ghost dog? I remember, all I remember is that Martha was hanging the laundry out to dry, and I was chasing my red ball, and then whoosh, everything went black. At first, it wasn't easy being a ghost dog. Oh, mostly because I couldn't see. But then I was able to make myself some ghost dog eyes, and now I'm as good as can be. I love being a ghost dog because I can steal food in the park without anyone seeing. Oh, stop that dog! Hey, he took our food! Grrr! Just now, I also learned to fly. Watch this. Hop! Sorry, I'm laughing at my own book. Sorry. It's a good sign. You may think that the life of a ghost dog is very lonely, but fortunately, I found that my doggy friends can see me perfectly well. I think he lost his mind. What's wrong with him? Why is he wearing that shit? But I don't think they've gotten used to woof, 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 my new bark. Boo! But the life of a ghost dog isn't perfect. There are some things you miss. Martha? Not at all. What I miss most in the world is my red ball. We used to have such a good time. Our life together was like something out of a movie. And my favorite movies are love stories. And that's it. I signed a contract that I can't continue with the book, so that's it.
We're gonna have to pick it up to see what how it
Yeah,
ended.
that's right. Well,
I,
you know the end, but
yeah, I know that. I love that story. So such a funny story.
thank you very much.
I
Thank you
know.
very much.
No, thank you for sharing it. And then Natalie, if you want to go.
So this is Old Clothes for Dinner, illustrated by Natalia Rojas Castro, brilliant illustrator based in Bogota, Colombia. I absolutely love this cover. All the colors, she did an amazing job. It's a little bit about us. And this is dedicated to Carmen, who is my grandmother. Magali shivered. The chilly air nipped without her sweater. She couldn't find it anywhere. Magali followed her big brother Camilo into their building. A zesty aroma tickled her nose as they neared their apartment. Abuela stirred over the stove, stirring sofrito and humming. Since she had arrived from Havana to live with them a month ago, their grandmother had whipped up one Cuban dish after another. Fricassé de pollo, picadillo, all kinds of new foods Magali had never tried before. Abuela's recipes all started with sofrito, a base of garlic, onions, peppers, tomatoes, and oil. But what Magali loved most was Abuela's arroz con leche. She would have never thought that a sweet rice pudding could be so yummy. Magali liked hers topped with extra cinnamon. Camilo ran off as Magali gave Abuela the packet from the butcher. ¿Qué cocinas? Magali asked. With Abuela around, Magali spoke Spanish all the time now. Abuela looked up and smiled. Ropa vieja. Magali understood enough Spanish to know that ropa meant clothes and vieja meant old. Old clothes for dinner? Gross. Magali bolted to the room she shared with Camilo. Her purple nightshirt lay crumpled on the floor. If Abuela likes to cook old clothes. Magali stuffed the nightshirt into one of her drawers on her desk. Hey, what are you doing? Camilo asked. Abuela says she's cooking our old clothes for dinner. That's ridiculous, Camilo snapped. No one eats clothes. Abuela does. You should hide that striped shirt you love. You wear it so much it has a hole. I can't even find it. I've looked everywhere. Magali's stomach swooped. A missing sweater, a missing t-shirt, ropa vieja for dinner. Magali remembered that when Abuela lived in Cuba, Mommy would send her boxes stuffed with clothes. Shirts, skirts, underwear. The clothes weren't for Abuela to wear. They were for her to eat. It was 8 p.m. when Magali heard the front door click open, then swish shut. Mommy was home from work. Magali, Camilo, vengan a comer. Abuela was calling. Dinner was ready. Magali swallowed hard as Abuela spooned the ropa vieja onto each of their plates. Olives, onions, and peppers were mixed with what looked like strips of Camilo's shirt, or pieces of her sweater. Huele rico, Mommy said. It did smell good. You're not going to try the ropa vieja, Magali? Mommy asked. Abuela spent all afternoon making it. Magali didn't want to hurt Abuela's feelings. Her hand shook as she brought a forkful of ropa vieja to her mouth. The old clothes didn't taste bad at all. Camilo had already emptied half his plate by the time Magali managed to take another bite. There's enough left for tomorrow, Mommy said. That night, Magali lay awake while Camilo snored. A lot of things had changed since Abuela arrived. They watched Spanish shows on TV now. Camilo complained a lot less, and Mommy seemed happier and less stressed. Magali welcomed all of these changes, but she would never get used to eating clothes. The next day, Magali didn't smell so frito when she and Camilo walked into their building, because they were going to eat leftover ropa vieja. Then Camilo showed up at dinner wearing his striped t-shirt. Where was it? Magali whispered. Abuela had it. She sewed up the hole, said Camilo. She fixed your sweater, too. My sweater? Yeah. You wore it so much it had a hole, Camilo teased. Magali was confused. Mommy, which of her old clothes did Abuela cook? Magali asked. What do you mean, old clothes? Mommy asked. The ropa vieja Abuela made, said Magali. Oh, said Mommy, it's only called that because the shredded beef looks like a heap of clothes. Magali's jaw dropped open. This is beef? Mommy was laughing now. Yes, you picked it up from the butcher yourself. Magali's cheeks flushed as Mommy translated for Abuela. Magali had never seen her grandmother laugh so hard. No one laughed harder than Camilo. Magali couldn't help but laugh too. Embarrassed but relieved, Magali gobbled up the rest of her plate. Ropa vieja was delicious. Abuela and Mommy disappeared into the kitchen. They came back with 4 bowls and spoons. Tu favorito, said Abuela as she slid a bowl of arroz con leche in front of Magali. It had extra cinnamon on top. Magali smiled at Abuela. Abuela winked. By the way, Magali, I was gathering the laundry and I couldn't find your purple nightshirt, Mommy said, in between spoonfuls of rice pudding. Have you seen it? Yes, replied Magali. I know exactly where it is. And this is the back matter of the book. We have other fun dishes from around the world that also have interesting names, and some facts about Cuba, where Magali's grandmother's from, where my mom and grandmother are from, and some Spanish words for anyone who wants to pick up a few.
Cool. Thanks, Natalie, for sharing that. I don't know if I'm the only one that's hungry now. Hearing all that and the ingredients and the recipe, that definitely got me in the mood for ropa vieja. Cool. Yeah. So thank you everyone for sharing excerpts and of your books. I think we can go into the questions now. Yes, I would love to hear what was the inspiration behind your books? Like, was there a particular moment, an event, maybe a personal experience that sparked this? Oh, wait, actually, I forgot. I'm supposed to read my book too.
That's right. That's right.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I forget. Cool. So yes, mine is called Emergency Quarters, illustrated by Gracie Zhang. She did a wonderful job with this. So the book takes place like in the 90s New York, where I grew up, and she kind of like did a really great job just like nailing down like that aesthetic of like that retro feel. So yeah, she did an amazing job. You go to the next slide. And because again, this takes place in the 90s, it's about quarters and payphones. Anytime I do a story time for kids, they have no idea what any of these things are. Um, so I have to start the story time by explaining what a payphone is or a quarter. So yeah, I start with this little letter here. Dear reader, there was a time not too long ago when cell phones weren't as popular as they are today. Luckily, the streets were peppered with payphones. These were public phones that we could use to call our loved ones for just 25 cents. Every morning, my mother would give me a quarter before sending me off to school. For emergency, mijo, she would say, give me a call if you ever need me. The coins in my pocket and the payphones on every street were my first taste of sweet independence. And the following true story is what happened next. Full of firsts for Ernesto. The first day of school and the first time walking there without his parents. He's waited his whole life to become a niño grande, but sometimes even big boys miss walking with their mothers. Ernesto and his mom talk about everything in those 6 blocks, like cooking mango for dinner. He helps by peeling and mashing the plantains. Ernesto throws on his lucky kicks and his favorite Mets cap. Feeling fresh, he says to the mirror. But before he can sneak out the door, his mother stops him. For emergencies, Ernesto, she whispers, covering his right hand with both of hers. If you need me, look for a payphone. He finds a shiny new quarter in his hand. He kisses her goodbye and hides it in his secret pocket. Ernesto and his friends visit Senor Jose's bodega on their way to school. The store is full of colors and all of Ernesto's favorite things. His friends buy cheese puffs and gummy worms. What about you, Ernesto? Asks Senor Jose. Ernesto picks up a crisp pack of baseball cards. He watches the games when his uncles visit. He puts the pack down. I'm saving up, responds Ernesto. ¿Para qué, niño? For what? Kid like you don't have bills. Ernesto remembers his mom's words, but I got emergencies. Ernesto counts the payphones on his way to school that day. 6. On Tuesday, his mama gives him another quarter and a kiss goodbye. He hides it under his first quarter where no one can find it. After school, Ernesto and his friends go to Manny's video games. His friends cheer and jeer and spend all their quarters playing arcade games. Ernesto got next, says his best friend Raul. Ernesto has enough quarters to play one game. These emergency quarters, Ernesto explains. Emergency quarters? Raul looks confused. Emergency quarters are what payphones are for, says Ernesto. Ernesto plays with the 2 quarters from his pocket. The coins run and jump just like the players in NBA Jam. Why don't have lots of quarters like Raul? Ernesto asks his mom before bed. Because we only have enough quarters for emergencies, mi hijo. But fewer quarters means each one is special, says his mom. Like limited edition baseball cards? Asks Ernesto. Sí, just like that. Cool. And you'll have to read. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You'll have to read the rest of the story to see it or on what he spends it on. Cool. So now we to the questions. So yeah, like I was asking before, if you guys would share the inspiration behind your book, if there was like an event, a moment, an experience that inspired your story. And I guess we can start with Natalie.
Yeah, I just want to say, Carlos, I also grew up in Queens in the 90s. So it was great seeing your book and seeing so many, it just felt so familiar to me. So yeah, loved your book.
Oh, thank you.
So my family is from Cuba, and I was a really picky eater when I was young. So I did not grow up eating ropa vieja. There's my disclaimer. But I always thought growing up, what a weird name for a dish. And so I started playing around with the idea of what if someone took that literally and thought it was really close. And so kind of went from there wherever the story went. And I think the funny parts are just kind of built in with the misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think I mentioned this before when we were speaking, and when I read the name and I started reading the story, I was like, "This is, it's just so smart and funny at the same time." You know, that's definitely something a kid would hear and totally like, mistranslate. Joaquin, if you want to answer.
Yes, Aldo is born from a contest. In fact, I there is this contest in Spain that is called El Cabildo de Gran Canaria, and I have like 15 years of being an illustrator, but not so much about being a writer. So I make like this exercise, like just writing. I tied my hands of illustrator, and I just start to write and to make a very good structure and a very good story. And that's it. A curious thing about this book is that Aldo was going to be a real ghost. In fact, at the first part of the book, he's going to have an accident and became a ghost, and their friends were also ghosts and all that. And the idea of the blanket appears at the last minute, And when that idea appears, was like, boom! I like it orders all the book, it's just it was just a good idea. And that's it. And the illustrations were at last minute. In fact, 15 days or something like that before the deadlines of the contest appears. So that's it. That's how
Oh, wow.
Aldo was born. Yeah.
That's that's amazing. That's so cool that the sheet thing was kind of a last minute thing, because that's kind of what made the story and made it so funny, right? This dog
That's right.
goes. A follow-up question: how was that a transition from illustrator to actually like writing your own book?
Really difficult, because it was like I said, like it's like a tennis player, like they have one really strong arm, and the other one is like very thin. It's the same thing, I
Yeah.
mean, I have to exercise a lot. I went to writing classes. I read a lot of books. I saw a lot of structures. I have to make a really good effort to make that arm more strong.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because every time I have like the intention to draw, I was like, no, 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 no. You need to have a very good structure, because as an illustrators we are very tempted to the aesthetic part. What I'm saying is like if we're talking about like a house, for example, we have like really cute rooms, but we don't have the pipes, we don't have the columns,
Mhm,
everything
mhm.
like falls apart. So I was very obsessed to have a very strong structure in the book.
Oh, cool. Yeah, cool, cool. I love your analogies with the tennis playing in the house. That was great.
Yeah.
And Justin, if you want to share with us your inspiration.
Sure. So I wrote this story, Impossible Possums, about a month before the pandemic. And somebody posted a photo online on a site called Twitter that is falling apart. And they posted a photo of a pangolin. And it's this endangered animal that one day might face extinction. We may never have them again on this planet due to habitat loss and humans hunting them and trafficking them. And they look like scaly anteaters, or if you like Pokemon like me, they look like Sandshrew. And this is a picture I printed of one. I don't know if you can see it. That's a
Yes.
pangolin.
Oh, wow.
And they always look like they're plotting to take over the world, like they're little villains, but they're really cute creatures. And I thought, I bet I could write a really funny story about a pangolin who wants to take over the world. And I decided I was going to do this, right? And that's what I did. But when Disney bought the book, we decided to change it to a possum. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on if we get the chance about why I changed it to a possum. But once upon a time, it was this cool looking creature that I still really love. And that's why I printed a picture, because I think everyone should go look up pangolins after this event. So that's how my story was born. It was born for love of pangolins. And now I have fallen in love with possums. And whenever I see like a possum that might be injured, I'm always trying to see if like I can go help it. And my family's just like, leave the possums alone.
Yeah.
And I will stop my car in the middle of traffic on a highway if I see a possum to try and help it. So that is the inspiration behind my story and how it is still impacting my daily life.
That's hilarious. I love that. I've never heard of that pangolin.
Pangolin, yeah.
England, yeah, definitely sounds like something I'd see in my nightmares.
I think there's like there's sweet little creatures. I think there's like 8 different species, 8 different types of pangolins, and when they get scared, like they're in different countries. When they get scared, they'll roll up into a ball, and even lions can't get through their scales because they're so strong.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. And yeah, next question. So,
How about you, Carlos?
Oh, yes, that's right. Me. It's all about you guys. I keep forgetting in my answers. Yeah, like I kind of touched on it before. This was inspired from a true story. Like back when I lived in Queens, back in the 90s, there were like payphones everywhere. Before like everybody was walking around with like iPhones in their pockets. So every day when I would leave the house, my mother, when I'd be out independent, and I'd be old enough to go out by myself, my mother would give me a quarter and she'd be like, hey, take this just in case, if you're going to stay out with your friends, or if you're going to hang out after school, or like in case of an emergency, something happens, like take this quarter, because back then that'd be the only way to reach anybody before the cell phones. Yeah, and sometimes if I'd have more than a few quarters in my pocket, I would definitely treat myself at the end of the week. So that's where the story comes from. Yeah, thank you for asking.
No problem.
I love your note at the beginning of the story too, because I have a little 12-year-old brother, and he saw a payphone a few years ago, like an abandoned payphone, and he asked us, "What's that thing?" Which was funny, trying to explain like what a payphone is, because he was born practically using a tablet and a cell phone.
Yeah, I could imagine for a kid, if they see like the booth, they'll probably think that's like a time machine or something. Like,
Yeah.
probably can't really. Yeah, and actually, the note in the beginning was all the editors. My editor Mabel Schuh, her idea, because the book was almost done, and she was like, "Wait a minute, kids aren't gonna get any of this," and we're like, "Oh, that's a good point." So then we
She's
went
a great
back, yeah, and added that. Yeah, and then second question I have here. So yeah, humor can take so many forms, like we see in all of our different books that we shared today. From silly to witty to wordplay to dialogue, to just like the concept. How do you approach for your book, injecting like humor when you're writing for kids? And yeah, we can start with you, Justin.
Sure. So I actually teach a class on writing humor because I love it so much. And some people say it's impossible to actually teach humor, but I think you can. I find it really fun. So what I do first is before I even try to be funny, I try to focus on a good story. So premise, character, and plot. And sometimes some stories are going to naturally be funnier than others, but I'm always thinking, how can I make this story as funny as possible? And there are special techniques. I say special to make it sound really cool, but there's techniques that you can do to help your humor. So I use something called setup and punch, which is like the structure of a knock knock joke. And I make you expect one thing is going to happen, and then I surprise you with something else. And a lot of times I'll use a really cool page turn. So you're about to turn the page and you're wondering what's going to happen. And then boom, I give you something surprising and funny that you weren't expecting. I use language and wordplay, funny sounding words, onomatopoeia, like bam, bang, boom, sounds, puns, and idioms. I think of escalation. How is the story building up? And then I use exaggeration. How can I push things and make them so extreme and outlandish and absurd until they reach a critical breaking point? Sort of like cartoons, right? They're so silly and they get more sillier and sillier and sillier until you get something super silly over the top, right? And I'm always thinking, how can I introduce more conflict? Because conflict is a key ingredient to comedy. And those are just some of the little things I do to help make my stories fun. But most of all, I'm always thinking, what makes me laugh while I'm writing it? Because I have like the sense, my sense of humor is very similar to a little kid's. And I watch a lot of cartoons. Like every night, I'm always watching cartoons like The Loud House and Big City Dreams, and that type of work, that cartoon world influences my own work. So that's a little bit about my approach.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to sign up for one of your humor writing classes because you did a great job there. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then Joaquin.
Oof, I thought about this question, but I think it's like in my veins, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was at this writing classes I was telling, and my teacher was like, "Yeah, I know, Joaquin, you write for children and all that, but we're gonna make an exercise, and I want you to write about dark things, you know, murders and things like that, you know." And I make like this story about a really dark murder, you know. And I was reading, and all of my other partners, you know, were laughing like "Blah, ha, ha," and I was talking about something very dark, you know. But the humor appears there. It's like something that is natural in me. I can't explain why. And it's very interesting because I think that humor is also like a, I don't know how to say it in English. It's Trojan horse. It's this
Mm-hmm.
this this horse of wood that, okay, you know all
Mm-hmm.
the story, right?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that humor is like that. You know, you can talk about really dark things and complicate things through humor. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, it happens something curious with Aldo, a little child, like starts talking to me, no, and he tells me, "I know something. I think that Aldo is dead." And it was really clever, you know, because yeah, Aldo is dead in a way because he's a ghost, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But Aldo, like you know, like it's pretty cool with that, you know, and he's telling all the things that are that being a dog is, it's a ghost dog is really cool, you know. So it's like I like that thing about humor, you know, that you can talk about complicate things through humor. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I do. It's funny. Like hearing Justin explain it, I see that in the book. Hearing you explain it, I see it in the book. How you mentioned at first it was actually a dog that had died, which is kind of dark,
Yeah,
but then
yeah, yeah.
into like this funny thing. So I do see that. Yeah. And
Yeah, so I'm going to be really honest here. So I am a nonfiction writer. That's what I always thought I would do. I'm a reporter. That's where I'm comfortable. And so this was just me. I sat down one day to try something different. Fiction for me is scary because I like to go find information and then present it in an interesting way. And so to make things up for me is scary. And so this was something I sat down to do. And I can't tell you, for example, like Justin, who went in and he had a plan and a structure. I just sat down to write. And I think that the premise of the story is just naturally funny. You get this misunderstanding. Oh my goodness, my grandmother is cooking my clothes. Now what? And so thinking about that, and then the way she shares that her fear, her anxiety over dinner with her brother, and bringing all of that in, and it kind of flowed very naturally. But I did not have any kind of plan going into it. I just sat down and say, I always write nonfiction, telling true stories. I'm going to try something else.
Yeah.
And somebody thought it was good and published it. And so I don't really, which I think is a good thing too. Sometimes whatever comes out of your mind, I don't think it's good to have a plan in some cases. You don't always need a plan.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a great point, and that's interesting to you say that, because like it's such a funny concept, the old clothes thing. So yeah.
And can I jump in and say that, to add to that, Natalie, I think what's great about that too is, sure, it's great to train, right? Like Joaquin said, or to have the knowledge, like the humor, like I've been using. But at the same time, the fact that you just jumped in and approached something new that might be scary is great, because we also have people that can help lift us, right? Even if we don't have the knowledge and we go in and we follow our instincts, what's great about writing is we can keep revising and making something funnier. So a lot of my stories don't start off funny, or I go in with a plan and I wish I hadn't because it makes things stale. But we have people that can help edit our work and make it better and point out what's not working and how to make it better. Like I've written nonfiction and rhyme, things that I'm not naturally good at and didn't have training, but the people that are experienced can help me and say, this is what you can do to be better, right? I'm going to share my knowledge with you. And I think that's what's great, right? That's how we all learn. And
Yeah. That's a great point you bring up, and Natalie touched on it too, because I come from like a food writing background. This is my first children's book, so like it was something new for me too. At first, I thought like, oh, it's gonna like kind of set me back that I didn't come from a picture book writing background, or that was like my goal, you know. But then everyone was like, oh, kind of like you're able to look at the format differently, you know, because you're coming from somewhere else. So that's, you know, like what you guys were saying. Yeah, cool. And oh yeah, so for me, I even forgot my question. Oh yeah, about the humor. Yes. This is what happens when you're having like a great conversation. I was like, wait, what I ask? Yeah. So for me, I think it was kind of like what Joaquin mentioned, like the Trojan horse. Oh, and I'm totally gonna ruin it, but it's something about like to write humor. You like write drama and then add some jokes to it. You know, so kind of wrote, you know, like the conflict of him not knowing what to do with the quarter, and in the root, you know, the root of it, it's like, you know, it's obvious he has less than his friends do, you know, less quarters than his friends do, and he's not able, you know, he has less resources. And then I kind of added like the jokes here and there at the end.
can I just jump in and say that I love what you just said, because that's another thing. Like I never go in and say, I need this character to be funny, right? I
Yeah.
always think of I'm going to use what my acting training is. How can this character act truthfully under their imaginary circumstances? Meaning,
Mm.
if I give them a situation, how can they respond in a way that is truthful? Like they could be so frustrated. They're not trying to be funny, but it's funny to the reader because of how they're reacting to their situation, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you just mentioned, Carlos. And that's what's also fun about humor, and something else that makes humor very funny.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and I really like this thing, you know, that you're saying, because it's like life, you know. Tragic things happened, and
Hmm.
also fun things happen, you know. I like this thing that Chaplin said, that, when you're living a tragic event, like it's like your life looking at a close up, you're looking very, very close to your life at a tragic event. And humor is like backing up, and seeing your whole life, and you like everything, like it's not that dark and that difficult. I really
Yeah.
like that, because when you back up, you can see like the funny things of your life and the tragic events also, and everything is like lighter. I really
Yeah.
like that.
That's so true. And it, like, like you said, it goes for life too, not just
Hmm.
writing, picture books. Yeah. Yeah, so let me see if we have any questions from the audience. No questions. Um, yeah, so picture books, like, there's, like Joaquin mentioned, you didn't even have the thing about the sheet on the dog. How Oh, actually, we have some student questions, which are probably better than my questions. Let's go to those first, and then we'll see if we have time for some more questions of mine. Yeah, if you have, okay. Yeah, are your characters based on real people you know? If so, do the real people know this? Oh, Tori, seventh grade. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, Natalie, if you want to start with that one?
So the short answer is no. Magali is a character that I made up. There are pieces of me in Magali. So she and I are not the same person, but we do have things in common. Mostly that I love arroz con leche. And yeah, so she's a fictional character, but there are parts of me in her. That's a great question.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, and
Mhm.
Joaquin?
Yeah, I have to agree with Natalie. I think that Aldo has a lot of things that I have. It's quite curious, because when I'm with my therapist, I notice that kind of things. I
Mm-hmm,
notice,
mm-hmm.
oh, I have like this thing, like a very positive thing in for example, in dark places of my life, or yeah, 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 yeah. I totally agree with Natalie. I think I don't have any secret friends, or anything like that. Yeah, I think that they are like the characters I like are like Frankensteins of me. Yeah, something like that. Parts of me.
Love that. Yeah, yeah. Justin?
Yeah, no, I don't have characters that are based on me. And thankfully I don't know any villains that are looking to take over the world. So no, it is not based on me. I will say the only character that I've even had somewhat remotely based on someone was Hector in the Quacken, which was I named him after my grandfather Hector. But that was the only thing. I don't know any villainous possums that live in a sewer.
That's funny. Yeah, so mine, it's funny because every character in the book that Ernesto comes across is named after someone, like either a cousin, family, friend, someone I know. Just because I had to come up with so many names that he was like running into, and I was like, let me just name after someone I know. And I think it was pretty cool for them to see themselves in the book. A lot of them started crying when they saw their name, like in a kid's picture book. And Ernesto is actually my middle name. Didn't want to name him like
Oh.
Carlos. I thought that was like too much. But again, I didn't want to like think of a new name. So I was like, oh, let me just name him Ernesto since it's about me. Um, yeah, and then do we have any more student questions? Oh, there's a good one. Is there a book or author that has influenced you? Let me see. Yeah, Justin, you want to take that one first?
Oh boy. There are a lot of children's authors whose work I love and they're all evading my mind at the moment. But what I will say is I think a lot of cartoons have really influenced me, right? So Despicable Me, Minions, those are very much an inspiration. And although I didn't use this as inspiration for my book, like the movie and the book, The Bad Guys, right? And then there's a bunch of um, yeah, like other shows like The Loud House, The Big City Greens. I love like anything like Hotel Transylvania, right? I have spooky books coming out that has influenced it. In terms of Picture books. I'm not going to name any picture books because then I don't want anyone to think I have favorite authors, because I have a list. If you go to my website, it's justincolonbooks.com. There's a hidden image somewhere on my website. It's a stack of books, and it's not so hidden. And I made a list of all my favorite picture books. So you'll just have to go there and find it, because if I share them right now, I'll feel really bad that I miss people. I feel like I'm giving some kind of award ceremony, and the music should play me off right now.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, I that happens to me whenever I get asked this question too. Funny you mentioned, and real quick, the cartoon, your cartoon, like, you know, your passion for it. Because when I read your book, I was like, this reads like if it was like a Disney cartoon. So I definitely like picked that up from your book.
Yeah, so it was so funny when Disney wound up picking, because there were several editors interested. It was funny when Disney picked the book up and then said, hey, do you want to like do a second book for this? So there's a second book coming out next year as well. And if our book does well when it comes out in 3 weeks, hopefully we'll get more books after that. And maybe one day it'll be a TV series. We'll see. So fingers crossed and knock on all the wood.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. And Natalie?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I don't really write a lot of fiction. I don't have specific, fiction authors that I can name for this book. I do think, though, that, as writers, we're always reading too. So we are readers. And I think that a lot of our work, even if we might not know it, but I do think that everything that we read has some kind of impact. Whether it's the way you do dialogue, whether it's the way you describe. And then maybe that's not, the best answer in terms of like specific, but I do think that, like Justin said, if I start naming all the picture books I've read, we would be here for another hour. So, but yeah, I think even if you don't realize it, because I think we might not always be able to pinpoint, but I do think, for anyone who's a reader, if you sit down to write, anything that you've read does shape what you put on the page. You might not know it, though.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I like that quote. If you're gonna write, read. It's so simple and it's so true. And it almost sounds like the opposite of it. If you want to write, read. But that's really what it is. And Joaquin, any book?
There are a lot of them. Every time they ask me this question, my mind just freezes, but I have a long list. But I don't know. I mean, I'm very classic. I really like Maurice Sendak. I like Tommy Ungerer, for example. I think Tommy Ungerer is great. Astrid Lindgren. I'm going to turn to see my books right now. Oh, John Klassen. I also love John Klassen, that it's more modern. I like Chris Houghton a lot,
Yeah.
I like these illustrators are more like, they have like these more structured books, simple books, but very, very funny, very simple books. I don't know. I love the Provençals. I'm very retro. I like Quentin Blake a lot, Roald Dahl, etc.
Yeah, Joaquin, when I saw your book, John Klassen came to mind right away. There's something that just, his books came to mind. So which goes back to what I was saying, like what we read, you're not trying to copy anybody, but it just influences the way you write, because again, as writers, that's what we draw from. We need to start from somewhere, right? So.
It's very interesting because John Klassen is very simple, and I have like this very difficult thing because the dog was with a blanket, so I don't have so much expression, just I have a lot of expression in the eyes, right? And John Klassen is a master of that, like the eyes of the characters of John Klassen are very like that, very expressive. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting. As someone who can't even draw a straight line, I cannot draw for anything. I never thought about that. How, the dog can't, there's no expressions. And I know for picture books, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Being able to like see the expressions on the faces. Oh, wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, shout out to all the illustrators. Like we write the picture books and we talk about our influence. And I know you're an illustrator as well, Joaquin, but just illustrators bring these stories to life. Like
Yeah.
picture books, we can write and tell a story, but the illustrator can tell a whole nother story or make your story even so much better through the illustration. And it takes so much skill to tell a story through pictures. Like picture books look so simple, but it's deceptive. They're really challenging. And
Oh, stop it.
yeah, no, and I really feel like I do think anyone can write it. It just takes training, right, and skill. But I do think that illustrators are like, it's not magic, but it seems magical because they really do make picture books special. Like as the writers, it's easy to talk about the story, but a lot of credit goes to them too.
Yeah, and I know in my process, like, you know, I write the book, and as you're writing it, you kind of have a little idea of what you want it to look, but then when you get it back from the illustrator, it's like, wow, this is like I couldn't even, my brain didn't even go there, you know. So yeah, shout out to all the illustrators. Yeah, do we have any other questions from the? No? Okay. Okay. Oh, that's what we have time. Okay,
Oh, okay.
cool. Yes. So I guess we can start wrapping up now. If yeah, would love if you guys would share your like your social media accounts or anything you wanna share, so you know everyone can like reach out and keep in touch and see what other amazing things you're coming up with.
Mine is camp.joaquin, like my name,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Yeah. Or you can Google me, Joaquin Camp.
Okay. And Camp.Joaquin is your email or your
Yeah.
so
No, the Instagram. Instagram.
Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Then Natalie.
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram, and I am Nathalie Alonso Books. So first name, last name, books. And that is where I share most of what I'm working from. Like I mentioned earlier, I am a baseball reporter. And so most of my projects that are coming up are all baseball related. I have Call Me Roberto, which is a biography of Roberto Clemente, was just released. And I have another one coming out on Fernando Valenzuela in the next couple of years. So.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you were a baseball reporter. I know you were coming out with the Roberto Clemente, which I'm excited for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool. And Justin?
Sure. So I am on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. It's Justin R. Colón, JustinRColon. I have a website, justincolonbooks.com. And then my email is justincolonbooks@gmail.com if you want to write me. I have the Quackin' that just came out, Impossible Possums. Next year, I have Impossible Possum for mayor. The villainous possum is running for mayor to take over the world. I have The Zombies, about zombie bees that invade a town on Halloween night next summer. And then after that, I have Vamper, which is about a vampire kitten that is looking for a home but frightens everybody.
Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah. Let me see. And then mine, my website is madebymatias.com. And then my Instagram, a little bit more complicated, Shody Los. So that's SHAWTYLOS. So I'll say it again, SHAWTYLOS. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for attending and sticking with us, attending the Laugh Out Loud panel and our story time at the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival. A big thank you to our three incredible authors, Nathalie, Joaquin, Justin, for sharing their book with us. Thanks again, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the festival.
Bye bye.